Hello and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is John Viglotti, and on behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you joined us for our next presentation from Fendx Technologies. Please note you can submit questions for the presenter in the box to the left of the slides. You can also view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings through the Schedule Meetings tab found on the conference platform. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Carolyn Myers. She's the President and Chief Executive Officer of Fendx Technology, which trades on the OTCQB venture market under the symbol FDXTF and on the CSE under the symbol FNDX. Welcome, Carolyn.
Don't applaud yet. Anyway, it's nice to be here, and I thank my CSE colleagues for inviting me, and also the OTC for this great invitation as well and hosting us here. As was mentioned, I'm Carolyn Myers. I'm the CEO and founder of Fendx. The company was founded back in 2020, and we became a reporting issuer in the end of January of 2022. So we've been public for not a long time, but for a while on the CSE, and we appreciate all the support from the CSE. So what are we doing? We're basically, we license nanotechnology from McMaster University, which is just outside of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And that IP was to nanotechnology, whereby we are developing surface protection products to keep those surfaces clean from lethal pathogens, other kinds of bacteria, etc., and reducing their spread. So here's our forward-looking statement. Again, this is what we're doing, and I'll talk a little bit about where we are in terms of how far we've advanced our technology, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of background about me. Why did I found this company? Well, my background is the pharmaceutical industry. I actually don't live in Canada. I live in New Jersey, although we're a CSE listed company originally. And I've worked in big pharma, some of the very large cap pharmaceutical companies in fairly senior level positions in commercial, M&A, and business development, and have over the years touched the infection disease control area, having launched antibiotics into the space and been involved in a number of other things related to that. And so when I saw this technology, I'm like, we really need this because we have not solved the problem. And I'll get into that in a minute. But to me, I'm very passionate about this, and what we're doing, I think, is going to contribute significantly to controlling the spread of some potentially deadly pathogens that are out there. So essentially what our technology does is we use the term repels. It doesn't actually repel. It actually prevents adhesion of bacteria, viruses, and other liquids, including blood, by the way, and other organics. And the whole premise behind this is if they don't stick, they can't be spread. And we have shown that we can significantly reduce the spread of bacteria and viruses when surfaces are protected with our nanotechnology. So I kind of highlight a little bit what the problem is. The problem is that while there are high hygiene standards, they're just not good enough. The rate of the spread of infections has not changed. It essentially remains the same. Antibiotics came in, it went down significantly in terms of reducing spread, but it's now plateaued. And in the US alone, this number is a little old, but more than 100,000 people die annually from one of these pathogens. And, it's one of the top 10 leading causes of death in the U.S. And you may not know this, but about 80% of common infections are actually transmitted by touch, which includes surfaces. So that's a bit scary. And, as I said, current practices, they're just not good enough, or they're necessary, but they're not enough. And so we do need innovation. And part of the reason we need innovation is because most of the bacteria that are out there that are causing these lethal infections are resistant to antibiotics. So there is nothing out there to combat them other than your actual immune system. And that's why those that are immunocompromised or those that are in the hospital for a surgical procedure or something are more susceptible to these from a lethality standpoint. So how does our nanotechnology work? Well, it works immediately and it works continuously to protect the surfaces. As I say, it kind of repels. It doesn't really repel; it just prevents adhesion. But you just think about something trying to stick to a surface, it can't. So it's working immediately. And if you look at this illustration, essentially the top one is you put our nanotechnology on a surface. You put a hand with that's contaminated on that surface. The contamination tends to stay on the hand because of the inert and low energy nature of the surface. Whereas if if you just touched an unprotected surface, the contamination will get transferred, and a consequence of that, it can get further transferred and cause some serious disease. So our lead product in development is called Repel Rep Film. We can reduce the adhesion of bacteria and a COVID-like virus by over 98%, which is pretty effective. And where we are with this is we've completed our pilot manufacturing phase. So now we can actually manufacture thousands of sheets of plastic with our coating in literally minutes. So the next step is to do some real world testing, and that's what we're preparing to do. Once we've completed that successfully, the intention is to move into commercial production, and I'll get into that in a little bit more detail. We're also creating a spray nano coating, and I kind of like this one, all bias aside, because the way that it can be applied, it essentially works as does the film. It provides immediate and continuous protection, and you can see, from the slide here that for MRSA and Pseudomonas, the reduction is pretty significant. And with a virus, it's pretty significant as well. As you may know, viruses are smaller than bacteria, so we had to make sure that bacteria can't adhere to these surfaces. So and again, the reason I like this is because it can go onto essentially any form factor. It can be applied either as a spray, or it can be applied with a cloth or a sponge or a roller, depending on the surface. We are in the process of getting towards the end of the formulation work, and then we'll transfer it to Nanocomposites, who is a nanoparticle specialist, who will then start the scale up work for us. So it's a big market. This is what the spray and the film will enter, a $1.3 billion global market. And it's growing, and for obvious reasons. I mean, I think COVID helped to stimulate this, but this number is net of not taking into consideration the increase that we saw in the utilization of a number of products to kill COVID. So it's actually a rather conservative number, 1.3 billion. And the plan is that, while healthcare obviously makes a lot of sense for the reasons we know, a lot of these bugs are in the hospital, but they're also on other high touch, high traffic surfaces, including, some of the ones that are shown here and more: schools, sports, offices, transportation, hotels, etc. Hotels are actually a huge user of disinfecting products, and for obvious reasons. So our plan is to really focus on all of these as target markets when we commercialize. Really quick, why are we different than liquid disinfectants? Well, liquid disinfectants, they're only as good as while they're wet. I don't know if you know this, but Lysol spray, you spray it on a surface and we wipe it right away. Well, guess what? It's not working. It didn't kill anything. You actually have to leave it on the surface for a period of time wet, and then you wipe it. Nobody knows that. So, and of course, Lysol or Clorox or all those companies will not say anything about that, but just so you know. Now, I'm not saying they're not effective, but they have to be used properly. There are other films out there that are metal containing. You can get resistance to the metals, and they're good. They provide 24-hour protection, but not immediate. So we believe we have some advantages over the current market. So just to finish up on our surface coatings, Repel Rep Film, as I said, we've completed our pilot manufacturing run with a company called Dunmore. They're just outside of Philly. It's a world-renowned film manufacturer. And now we're preparing for real world testing. Once we're completed that, we'll move into commercial production. Our plan is to have licensees or distributors work with us as partners versus us spending that kind of capital. And there's a lot of them out there that are in this space that really have the connections and can provide a lot of support here. And then obviously once that's all completed, we'll do the selling and distribution. As it relates to the spray, as I mentioned, we're completing the formulation work. We'll transfer it to nanocomposites. The scale up of that shouldn't be as hard because you're just talking about it's nanoparticles in suspension. So you're taking this volume and creating larger batch sizes. So in theory, it should be easier to scale up. And once we're done that, we'll do the beta testing, just as we're doing with the film. And then we'll move into licensing and commercial production. So, as I mentioned, we're using a cost-efficient model here for obvious reasons. We've been collaborating with McMaster since we licensed the technology. They have been a great collaborator. They also we could work with a third-party contractor, but they're very expensive. These guys are reasonable, and they've worked very well with us and helped us to advance our products. We're going to use contract manufacturers. We're not going to make our own plants. I mean, that would be crazy. And then, as I mentioned, we're going to license this, so it'll be a royalty-based type licensing arrangements. At least that's what we predict. And the last is we're maximizing non-dilutive funding. We have non-dilutive funding through NSERC, which is out of Canada, to support our projects. So let me move on to a product that is earlier stage development. And I just wanted to highlight it to say that we are coating catheters. I don't know if you know the number of infections and blood clots that can be associated with catheters, certain different kinds of catheters, but Foley catheters alone, which are the bladder inserted catheters, in the United States alone, there's more than 1 million infections. And if you're older, it can go systemic and you may or may not survive. And as it relates to central venous catheters, which are primarily a lot of times used for chemotherapy and they're surgically implanted, they also have a relatively high, not a high, but they can be subject to infection, but also blood clots. And if you can't get rid of them, they have to, then the catheter needs to be surgically removed and then reimplanted. It can be very costly. You can see this is a very large market. And, if we are successful in being able to bring a product to market, I think this will really solve a lot of the current problems that we're seeing in treatment with current catheters. And what we've shown in the lab, in McMaster's lab, is that not only can we reduce the attachment of E. coli, which is the one that usually causes the bladder infections, but we can also we've also seen reduction in blood or fibrin networks, which are the precursors to blood clots. We're in the prototype development stage. I'm hoping by the end of this year we will be able to move on and actually move into doing a proof of concept study in an early preclinical setting to confirm that we can reduce infection rates and blood clots. So we have a very robust patent portfolio shown here. We have a few patents that are issued. Our Chinese patent is issued for our film. We're expecting the US patent to be issued shortly, as well as the Japan patent to be issued. So, we're moving in the direction of having actually patents granted, which is a good thing. And it's just a testament to, the ability to put together some good patent strategies. So, what are we doing from a growth standpoint? Well, we're pursuing licensing acquisition opportunities. As I said, I've got a very strong background in licensing and M&A, so I'm a big proponent of bringing in products to build out your portfolio, because you shouldn't have all your eggs in one basket. You need to diversify, and so we're looking at a number of opportunities now, and I'm hoping in the next couple of months or so we'll be making some announcements with regard to either an acquisition or a licensing of a complementary product in the infectious disease control space. And obviously, we will continue to explore other uses of our nanotechnology. The medical device piece of it is the newest of our explorations, and there are many more, as you might imagine. This is the team. Myself, I think I've talked about myself, but just quickly, I also, in addition to having senior level positions, I've also been the president of a revenue generating pharmaceutical business. While I was there as the president, we grew EBITDA 25% year over year. So I turned the company around. And then I was also the president of a film manufacturing facility where we developed transdermal products, and we had a contract film manufacturing group as well. And in my tenure there, we got 4 products approved through the FDA. So I have again, I've launched a number of products, 25 with my teams. I've done 45 plus business development transactions, a lot of experience under my belt. Rose is our CFO. She has a lot of experience. She's in Vancouver, in the public market sector, and has advised a number of companies, and we're very lucky to have her on board as our CFO. And then Tash is our operations manager. She basically oversees the work that we're doing with McMaster right now and ensures that we keep things moving in a timely manner. Our board, Stephen Randall and Pierre Soulard, are Stephen, they're both independent. Stephen is a CPA. He's our audit committee chair, and previously was at Titan Medical as the CFO and was on the board as well. Pierre Soulard is a securities lawyer, so he brings the governance and makes sure that we do everything the right way. So he's been instrumental as well, and has actually run businesses himself. And then two very distinguished advisors. Rohit is he was at Johns Hopkins. He's associate faculty in public health, which is such an important area for us to focus on. And he has connections with the CDC, WHO, and other government agencies. He's been in positions and put policies together as it relates to infectious disease control associated with COVID, but also other pandemics, and is working with a number of international regulatory folks to put together policies for future pandemics, which, by the way, are probably just around the corner, unfortunately. And then Tohi Dadar is he's one of the innovators of the technology, and he really helps support me in the business development function, as well as just advancing the technology, and has been a great contributor. So I just want to finish off with our finance and share structure. We've raised 10 million, this is Canadian, to date, and we're debt free. We're actually planning a private placement to raise $4 million. So stay tuned for that when we announce it. And the use of proceeds will be, as you might imagine, to continue to advance our nanotechnology projects. And G&A, clearly business development is a big area that we need to focus on, and obviously communication to build awareness about what we're doing. Shares outstanding, just over 73 million. Options and restricted shares are really for the staff at Fendx and our key consultants. So that just tells you what's outstanding. And then warrants, most of them are at 50 cents associated with our IPO round. And a small percentage of those are actually broker warrants. So I just want to close by saying, I think we're on the right path to help to mitigate the spread of some deadly bugs, that we can work commensurately with the current high standards of hygiene, and believe that we will have the opportunity to help to reduce the spread of these deadly bugs. There's a need, as we know. I've already talked about it. The rate is not declining; it's remaining the same globally. And our products, I'm really happy with the advancements we've made with those products over the last 3.5 years, especially with our film, being able to set it up for automated manufacturing, and our spray hopefully will be scaling that up shortly. And then the catheter project, I receive a lot of interest in that one because there really isn't a good mousetrap out there. There's many that are trying. There's a lot of interesting ideas out there, but unfortunately, they're not. None of them are tremendously successful. We want to go into a number of these multi-million-dollar industries, which all are high traffic, high touch. And we have a really strong leadership team. We're surrounded by, well, myself, my CFO, my board, and obviously our advisors. We have a number of consultants that we work with in the capital markets, in just strategy, et cetera, that are really helping us to advance the company to success. And that's it. So thank you.
Thanks, Carolyn. We'd like to open up the floor for questions now.
Hello. So how long does it last? Like if it's a film, how long does that piece of film protect?
We have data from McMaster's lab that they're durable even after 6 months.
And same with the spray?
It's in late formulation. We're trying to, and this is what we're achieving, is to have a similar type of durability.
Thank you.
The disinfection space is very busy with a lot of huge players like Steris and Curious and BioQuell, and I know a lot of their products are wet. So obviously it's a huge advantage that yours isn't. But how do you expect to be able to come in and take some of their market share, particularly in hospitals and then the other high traffic areas, like labs, for example?
So when you look at the market, and that's a good question, by the way, what we're doing is we're not saying stop doing that. We're saying that we can contribute to what they're trying to achieve. The amount of money that is actually spent, labor that is spent on cleaning surfaces, as well as the actual materials, is unbelievably expensive. And and we're talking human nature here. So the question is, if you can cover surfaces and also look to not get rid of, but take a very small portion of what they're doing from a current disinfecting, and you can show that there's actually a decline or there's better management in terms of the spread, then I think that will be, that is the model that we're working with, and I do believe that that could be very successful. So we're not saying that we want to take away what they're doing, because what they're doing is essential. There's nobody can say that it's not. It's just a question of working with the current hygiene practices to even provide better protection. Okay, thank you.
All right, Carolyn, thank you very much.